When Srila Prabhupada went to the West, when Srila Prabhupada went to America, he inspired these young American boys and girls, and they went out and started to spread the movement. Srila Prabhupada was giving them the inspiration, Prabhupada was giving them the support. But they got inspired and they went out to different parts of the world and spread Krishna consciousness. Mukunda Maharaj played a very significant role in spreading Krishna consciousness. He was the one who got the 26th Second Avenue for Srila Prabhupada. When Prabhupada needed such a help, when Prabhupada didn't have any place to stay, he called up Mukunda Maharaj when he was driven away by this drug addict with whom he was sharing his apartment. Not even an apartment, a studio. So one day he attacked Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, he chased Prabhupada. Prabhupada came down, ran down the stairs, came to the street. Prabhupada didn't know where to go. So he called up Mukunda Maharaj. And Mukunda Maharaj, at that time, Michael Grant, he couldn't accommodate Srila Prabhupada at his place, but he arranged with his friend that Prabhupada could stay with him. And then he found this 26th Second Avenue, and behind that a small apartment for Srila Prabhupada to stay. And the Krishna consciousness movement started there, 26th Second Avenue. And when 26th Second Avenue became successful, then Prabhupada held the first initiation there. Handful of young American boys and girls. Mukunda Maharaj, along with his girlfriend at that time, got initiated. And Prabhupada got them married. He said, now you're devotees. You can't live like girlfriend and girlfriend. Now you have to get married. And then Prabhupada sent them to San Francisco. Now you go to San Francisco. Because San Francisco was the heart of the counterculture of America at that time. All the youth of America were running towards San Francisco. Or at least it was a dream to go to San Francisco, Golden Gate Park. So hearing that, Srila Prabhupada just sent Mukunda Maharaj and his wife, Janaki. They teamed up with two of their friends who later became Shamsundar Prabhu and Gurudas Prabhu, and their girlfriends, who became Malati Mataji and Jamuna Mataji. So these three couples went and started the center in San Francisco. And the Hare Krishna explosion started.
Was Mukunda Maharaj? Was Mukunda Maharaj's girlfriend?
Janaki. Yeah. And then all these devotees started to come forward in the West Coast. In the East Coast already there were so many devotees, like Kirtananda Swami, Achyutananda Swami, who later became sannyasis. Kirtananda, Achyutananda, Umapati Maharaj. And then in San Francisco, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, then so many other devotees, stalwart devotees started to come forward. And then when it started to spread in America, these three couples went to London. They thought, okay, now let's go out of America. And they went to London. And I was told by Shamsundar Prabhu that they couldn't fly directly to London because they didn't have enough money. So the cheap flights were available those days to Benelux countries like Belgium, Holland and Luxembourg. So they took one of those cheap flights and they thought that they would go across the channel and go to London. But when they went there, they found to go across the channel, English Channel, and enter into England, enter into UK, you have to show a certain amount of money. They didn't have enough money for 3 couples to go, 6 of them to go. So they got all their money together and 1 couple went. Then they wired the money back to Amsterdam for the second couple to go. And in this way they went. They didn't have any place to stay in England. Some Indian families allowed them to, hosted them. But even they were not interested in what they were teaching. They let them stay in their houses. They were also not very well-to-do, because at that time there was a lot of influx, a lot of emigrants from Kenya and Uganda. They, due to the atrocities there, the Indians moved to London. And so they were staying in that with one of those families. And even they were not interested in their teachings. And then they came across George Harrison, the Beatles. And that happening also was very incidental, very interesting, because that actually shows how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was guiding this movement. He was making all these arrangements for them. They didn't know where to go, who to influence, who to preach to. The Indians were not responding those days. Actually, the Indian support started to come only very recently. During Prabhupada's time, the Indian support was very, very limited. And Prabhupada himself lamented a few times that everyone is coming, but the Indians are not coming. Today, when Prabhupada sees that all of you have come forward, he'll be so pleased that finally the Indians are coming. So they didn't know where to go, who to preach to. Then one day they saw a picture of the Beatles. They were dressed in Indian clothes, kurta pajama. And seeing that, they thought maybe the Beatles will be a good candidate for preaching Krishna consciousness. But the Beatles were so famous, they were the most famous people in the world at that time. To approach the Beatles was not easy. Then one day, Shamsundar Prabhu bumped into one of his acquaintances in London, acquaintances from California. His name was Rock Scully, and he was the manager of the Grateful Dead, a famous rock group at that time. So, he asked Rock Scully what he was doing there, and he said that he had an appointment to the Beatles. He had to meet the Beatles, some musical contracts and things. So he asked whether he could take them to the Beatles. And Rock Scully said, yeah, fine, come on such and such day, and I will introduce you to the Beatles. And so he goes there, but the Rock Scully was not there, and he tried to convince the doorman, the doorkeeper, to let him in. And he told him that he has a friend who is waiting for him, he had an appointment, and so on and so forth. But the gatekeeper would not let him in. So while he was trying to convince the doorman, John Lennon's Japanese wife, Yoko Ono, just drives in with her white Rolls Royce. And he sees Shamsundar dressed in dhoti and kurta, and he says, hey, you must be a friend of John. So he says, yes. So she says, come on in. So she takes him in, and he thought he will wait for Rock Scully to come. So when he was waiting in the reception area, George Harrison just happens to pass by. And he says, "Hey, where you all been? I saw you all in San Francisco, and since then I've been trying to find out who all you are, where you are." And so that's how it all started. So we can very clearly see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is making all these arrangements. Apparently it seems some accidental phenomena, but ultimately it is Mahaprabhu's divine arrangement. And then everybody knows what happened. George Harrison became very friendly with them. And they started to preach to George Harrison. George Harrison became interested in Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Then when Srila Prabhupada got to know that, Prabhupada went to London to meet George Harrison and John Lennon. Prabhupada actually stayed in the house of John Lennon at that time. And George Harrison cut a record, cut an album, My Sweet Lord. And he also, we got Jamuna to sing Govindam Adipurusham. There George Harrison actually arranged that, and he played the guitar himself in that. So anyway, we can see how in such an amazing way this movement started to spread, and what happened in 10 years' time is absolutely impossible phenomena. Such a spiritual organization to spread in such an effective way all over the world is an impossible phenomenon.